Fanfic Corner, presented by Jennifer. Breath of Hope. Rayla? Callum called, running outdoors to her, but stopped quickly when she turned around and pointed her sword at him. The assassin blinked for a moment. Callum, she gasped, stepping away from him and lowering her weapon. I'm so sorry, but whatever you do, don't surprise me when I'm practicing, or you might lose a finger. She smirked a little. I mean, could you imagine going around with only 4 fingers? She wiggled her 4 digits at him to make a point. The point was lost on the dragon, who just looked confused. You manage. She shook her head and rolled her eyes with a fond smile. You were looking for me? Oh, yeah, I wanted to ask you if you've seen my book. The one I draw in. I can't find it. You left it by the tree over there, she said, pointing to the tree in question. Hurrying over, he found the book and opened it, checking the inside. The pencil was still in the slot, and he took it out, sitting against the tree and drawing with a smile. He soon got engrossed in his work. Her practice disturbed, the Moonshadow Elf decided to call it an end and walked over to him. She couldn't help but peek at the illustration. Wait, is that me? He looked up at her and beamed, turning the book to show her. Yeah. No, it can't be me. You made me look far too pretty. His smile vanished and he stood by her side. No way. If anything, I didn't make it pretty enough. You're far prettier than this, Rayla. He looked down at his work. Besides, this one's wrong. Wrong? Your eyes, he said, speaking to the picture and touching her eyes on the paper. They aren't right. Your eyes are way better than this, but they're always changing. I couldn't pick a memory I liked, so I kept changing it. He sighed in frustration and looked at her, concentrating on her eyes. They're so interesting. It's hard to draw them from memory. Callum, do you think I could draw you while looking at you? he interrupted, eyes full of hope. It would be easier if I could look at you while I did it. Please, Rayla. She glanced away and twisted a lock of her hair around her finger. She was kind of nervous over the request. Please, he begged, dragging the word out. Looking at him, she let out a breath and conceded. Oh, all right. Thank you, he exclaimed, wings spread wide with joy and his tail wagging. He grabbed her hand and pulled her to a rock, forcing her to sit on it. Then began to turn her body and head, messing with her hair until happy with her position. Right, he said, at last sitting himself on the ground, book open to a new page and ready to draw. Rayla frowned as she was forced to model. How long is this going to take? Rayla, he groaned, don't move. But you're moving. Deciding to humor him, the elf sat as still as she could, waiting as the dragon did his drawing. About 15 minutes had passed before he appeared to be satisfied. Yeah, that's it. Perfect. Can I move now? Yep, I'm done. Stretching, she groaned and walked over. All right if I have a look? The prince smiled and passed her the book. Instantly, she saw what he meant about the previous drawing being wrong. This one was beautiful. It put the previous image to shame to the point where she couldn't believe she was looking at herself. There were two sides to the drawing. One showed a full-body image of her sitting on the rock, her hands folded delicately on her lap, her whole outfit frozen perfectly in time. Every part of it was detailed and clear, and she couldn't stop looking up and down the entire page. She was smiling and had a likeness in the page she didn't know how he captured. The other page only had her from the shoulders up, a small smile on her lips, and eyes looking off in the distance as he positioned her. Her hair shone even with only charcoal as color, and her eyes were indescribable. They looked enchanted. As she looked at the picture, she leaned on the tree behind him and slid down to sit on the ground, unable to take her eyes off the image. Callum, you are amazingly talented. I only draw what I see, Rayla, he explained, leaning over and resting his head on her shoulder. That's just how you look to me. Finally able to look away from it, the elf smiled at him. I had no idea. He smiled back, closing his eyes for a bit. As he rested, Rayla flipped through his book, finding a few flowers, pictures of Bade and Ezran, and a few smaller, rougher sketches of herself. There were images of trees, fruit, and even the lodge itself. There were multiple sketches of the rooms and outside the building. Almost half of the book was already filled with his drawings. As she tried to work out how far he'd gotten, she spotted something towards the back. A drawing that seemed out of place. The pages before and after it were blank, but there was something. Slowly going through, she found the image and instantly wished she hadn't. It was her again. But this time she was lying on the ground, her head turned away and eyes closed. A dark mark ran down her face, blood frozen in the charcoal. Above her was a man she didn't recognize, but she could guess. He stood over her, a staff in hand, as he raised it above his head, ready to bring it down on her. The detail on this man was sharp and clear, a face seared into Callum's memory from years of him being the only person he saw. Unlike his other pictures, this one had a background behind the two people, showing the room they had found him in. The jars of remains were the same as when she walked past them a few days ago. He had captured the detail of every one, recreating the view from his prison. At the front of the image were two hands reaching out towards them. She could almost hear him screaming from the way they reached for her, but unable to save her. The hint of chains peeked out at the base of the page. Glancing at the teen resting on her shoulder, she closed the book and placed it in his arms, wishing she could change the blood ribbon's target from Ezran to that monster. "If I ever meet him, Callum, I'll kill him. I swear to you."